House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the White House must reach a deal with Democrats by today if they want a stimulus package before the election. This Sunday, she expressed her optimism that talks were going well.
If you don't get that agreement in the 48-hour deadline you set, what happens?
Well, here's the thing. The 48 only relates to if we want to get it done before the election, which we do.
Well, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, so which we do. But we're saying to them, we have to freeze the design on some of these things. Are we going with it or not? And what is the language? I'm optimistic because, again, we've been back and forth on all of this.
President Trump insists he wants a large package, around $2 trillion. Senate Republicans are unlikely to move on a deal of that size. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is instead expected to put forth a slimmed-down $500 billion bill. The relief will include unemployment benefits and more funding for the Paycheck Protection Program, but will not have funding for states or additional stimulus checks. Democrats, who passed the $3.4 trillion HEROES Act back in May, are unlikely to support that measure. They believe additional funding for state and local governments is critical. No matter the deal, the Senate needs 60 votes to pass any legislation. These political standoffs are happening as millions of Americans need the relief now. Nearly 900,000 workers filed new jobless claims last week. Many are still struggling with basic necessities like food. For more, I want to bring in CBS News political reporter Grace Segers in Alexandria, Virginia. Hi, Grace. Great to see you. So what is the latest on negotiations between House Democrats and the White House?
Well, as you said, Speaker Pelosi set the deadline of the end of today for herself and the White House to reach a deal on coronavirus stimulus bill. So the person from the White House who has been primarily doing the negotiations is Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. But unfortunately, a lot of Republicans in Congress are very wary of Mnuchin and worried that he's going to capitulate too much to Pelosi. He recently offered a $1.8 trillion stimulus counteroffer bill to Pelosi. She rejected it, saying it was a bit too low, and they still have some priorities which need working out, namely on liability protections and on funding for state and local governments. So Pelosi and Mnuchin are expected to speak again today. It's possible that we could see a deal between them by the end of the day, but the big concern is, even if there is a deal that can pass in the House, could it pass in the Senate?
So why are Senate Republicans, Grace, proposing this targeted $500 billion relief package? And what exactly is it missing that Democrats say must be in any deal they approve?
So Senate Republicans are really opposed to the high price tag of the Democratic bill that passed in the House. That was over $2 trillion. A lot of Senate Republicans have said that they don't think it's possible for Republicans to pass that in the Senate. So they're looking to pass their narrower $500 billion bill, but it doesn't include a lot of key provisions. So for Pelosi, one of the biggest sticking points is, as I said previously, funding for state and local governments. Now, Republicans say all of this funding is going to go towards blue states, so why should it be included? But Democrats say that the funding is needed for all states, not just blue states. Another big problem is with liability protections, where that's a very big priority for McConnell, and it's included in his bill, but it's not included in the Democratic bill. And one more thing that Democrats are really upset about is that the unemployment benefits included in the Republican bill are not as high as the unemployment benefits that would be included in the Democratic bill. So it's really just a matter of how much money is being allocated to different priorities.
So, Grace, if there isn't a deal by today, what's likely to happen next? Is that going to take all the steam out of negotiations?
It is, unfortunately. So the thing about having today as the deadline is that we are 2 weeks away from the election. So if there is a deal that comes up with today, then there is time, presumably, for both houses of Congress to pass it and for the president to sign it before the election. But with each day that creeps closer to the election, we are less and less likely to find a deal. And while it's possible that they could reach a deal and pass something after the election, there are millions of Americans who are suffering right now and need that assistance right now, and who are very frustrated, frankly, that Congress hasn't done anything sooner than now.
Absolutely. Well, Grace Segers, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.